Yes! Dancing was never my passion, as you can tell. But if it's your passion, then be careful at the dance studio because you may run into some of these creepers. I know that if you go to the dance studio, even after working a job that you hate, you must be very passionate about it. And I respect that. So grab a blanket, turn off your lights for 3 true scary stories that happened at the dance studio. Come in for private lessons. I always enjoy coming to Let's Not Meet and reading about others' experiences, from seemingly minor to major dangers. I thought I'd share a story that I'll only ever admit it to my boyfriend. A little background information. I'm currently 18, female petite. When this happened, I was 16, and it was before I got to anxiety classes to work on my social and general anxieties. Therefore, I didn't really stand up for myself. I had a ton of self-esteem issues and tried to brush it off if they bothered me because I believed I was slightly paranoid about stuff. When I was 16, I had already had a dog named Rambo, and I just got a new dog named Coda. We had already taken Rambo to a specific dog training program. The program was fantastic, and it really snapped our leopard dog into shape. Coda, a hyperactive German Shepherd Golden Retriever collie mix, definitely needed some training. My mom and I decided to take him to the same place we took Rambo, since it had moved locations and was now even closer to our house in the Chicago area. When we brought Coda to the new location, it was in the basement of a dance studio. It didn't have dance equipment in the basement though. There was a large double room with a thin hallway running alongside it. At both ends of the hallway, there were open double doors that both connected to the large room. Sometimes, during training, we would be walking our dogs close next to us, under the heel command, through the hallway and back into the room. It didn't seem as spectacular to be in this new location, which seemed a lot less nice than the old location in the building. Not only that, but there was a new guy running the class. He was on the medium to tall side, definitely taller than me. Looked to be in his late 30s or so, and something seemed off about him. He was friendly and all, but there was a red flag. He was a little too friendly. It gave me really weird vibes that made me uncomfortable. What really got me was that he was kinda touchy. He would touch a few of the women in the class, just little touches like touching a woman's hand with his for a moment, or lightly rubbing their back a little for a couple seconds while instructing. It went pretty unnoticed, to my surprise. I'm not sure if it was because I tend to be slightly anxious in practically all situations, so my awareness is usually pretty high, and I'm on guard most of the time or not. But there was definitely something wrong. The worst part of it all was that I was the youngest female there. Everyone was in their late 20s to a few folk in their mid-50s. I quickly became the trainer's favorite, as I consistently trained Coda with the proper techniques. Sometimes, he would have me demonstrate something small for all the people, which I despised since I hate being the center of attention, but he kept getting touchier and touchier. When it began, it was just his hand on my back while he was talking or watching other people train their dogs, and then it was touching my hand whenever he could. I remember having my hands by my waist once, and he kept touching my hand and purposely brushing up against me. I was becoming more and more concerned, but still keeping quiet about it because, well, I thought that being in a crowded room, he would either be too afraid of being seen doing more, and because it hadn't escalated to anything really awful. The classes were every Thursday, if I remember correctly. I remember the general date of the last time we went because I marveled at the circumstance. The last day we went to dog training was October 24th, thank goodness. In the car on the way there, my mom was talking to me about the trainer. She told me that he wanted me to come 15 minutes early, before anyone else got there, so that he could give me extra private lessons. This is when I realized that no one else had even picked up on how creepy the guy was. My mom seemed kind of proud of it, and happy to say that. I stayed quiet, horrified in my mind at what he was actually wanted to do with me there earlier. Would it be actual dog training? The vibe he gave me told me not to accept his request. The last day, all of his little touches and smiles made me feel sick. I thought about how petite I was compared to him, and how if something really did happen, I wouldn't be able to protect myself very well. I can't punch for shit. Luckily, Halloween was the next date for the class, so my mom told him we were celebrating Halloween and wouldn't be there that day. After Halloween, we hadn't gone back simply because Koda had learned enough. He listened really well and it was good enough for us. I still haven't told my mom about it because, well, I don't know. I feel weird about the whole thing and it was just unsettling to me to think about it. I don't know for sure what the trainer would have done had I gone to his private lessons, but I'm sure as hell glad I didn't go, and that we didn't return at all. Ballet class creep. I tried posting this before, but it didn't post, so hopefully it'll work this time. So I think this happened when I was around 12 or so, 3 to 4 years ago. I took dance classes a couple times during the week. I live in a huge, very well-known city, and my studio is on one of the very popular streets. The left wall of the front studio is a window, and it's completely see-through. We can see out and people on the street can see in, so it was normal to see people looking in from outside. We had our fair share of creepy people, but this was the creepiest. We had just began learning choreography for our annual recital. I believe it was January. My teacher was working on staging, so we were all lined up across the back waiting to get our spots. Now, like I said, it was normal for people to walk by the window, and someone noticed the same guy had passed by the window a few times. He wasn't looking in or being distracting or anything, so he thought nothing of it. A few minutes later, one of the folding doors into the studio opened, and there was the guy who had been walking past. He looked to be in his 40s, he was really tall and he was wearing a light jacket, which was odd because it was January, and the winters can be extremely harsh where I live. The creepiest part was that he said nothing, he just stood there. My teacher asked a few times, "Can I help you, sir? Do you have a daughter here?" But he said nothing. He was just staring at all of us girls lined up in the back. He was looking at us one by one. Everyone was just kind of shocked. My poor friend Kat was right next to him, as she had gotten her spot for the beginning of the stage, and it was right where the door was. Once she got over the initial shock and realized that he wasn't talking, my teacher asked him to leave. He just stood there. She got more abrasive and walked up to him and basically pushed him out of the door, which I applaud her for, considering she's only about 5'2" and the sweetest woman I've ever met. My teacher and the office staff kicked him out and made sure he walked far away from the studio. Although he didn't do anything, he had no business being in a dance studio filled with 11-year-old kids. My teacher said that he might have been drunk, as there was a bar about 2 blocks down the street, but I'm not sure. The way he stared was just super creepy, and we were all shaken for the rest of the rehearsal. So, creepy dance studio guy, let's not meet ever again. Tab dancing campus safety officer, let's not meet again. This is my first post on Reddit. I'm a little nervous, but I felt the story might fit here. My freshman year of college, I was in a dance show just for fun. There were several dances all choreographed by students, and in between some of the acts, one of the campus safety officers, John, was asked to tap dance since he had previously danced on Broadway. Sounds ridiculous, I know. Strange career change. He was pretty muscular and large, late 40s, maybe early 50s. Anyways, during dress rehearsal, he decided to stand in the wings and watch all of the dancing. I figured I should also mention that watching in the audience was allowed when you weren't dancing, since it was dress rehearsal. He also took it upon himself to give each group of dancers critique after they went off stage. Although it seemed a little forward, he was also a professional, so alright, I suppose. Albeit that some of it was a bit harsh, considering it was a student dance show in which almost all the dancers were just dancing for fun. Something about this guy seemed a little weirdly obsessive and intense. Come the night of the show, I ended up falling in one of my dances rather comedically, when I decided to kick a little too overzealously and my foot slipped out from under me. Not the first time I'd fallen on stage, and I managed to get up quickly and finish the dance relatively under control. However, as we exited stage right, I understandably was quite upset, though I laugh at it now. The adrenaline in the situation had me crying a bit. As my fellow dancers were comforting me in the wings and telling me that it was going to be okay, John, who was in the wings instead of the dressing room, even though he wasn't dancing for several more pieces, pulls me aside and grabs onto both of my shoulders. He looks at me and yells something along the lines of, "Hey, you have to snap out of it," and proceeds to tell me that I have to calm down right now or the rest of the show would be ruined. My fellow dancers stood kinda awkwardly watching the scene, and we proceeded to head towards the door that went downstairs to the dressing room. John still had his hands on my back and walked behind me. I was last in line at this point. Then, as I started down the stairs, John spanks me on the butt and whispers, "Break a leg." Not quite sure if spank is the right word, but it was a strange hybrid pat push. I might also mention that I was wearing only a leotard and tights. It didn't really hit me what had just transpired until I was halfway down the stairs. I wasn't horribly affected by this or anything. I had actually forgotten about it until recently, but to this day, when I see this campus safety officer around campus, he gives me the heebie-jeebies. He often looks through the windows and the doors of the dance studios and watches rehearsals. So, tap dancing ex-Broadway star campus safety officer, let's not meet again, okay?